Hi, it's Georgina Villasenor-Lee, and it's week 2 of our Leadership and Management course. This is my presentation on my temperament survey results. So what will be covered in this presentation, a brief background as to how this temperament survey came about, my survey results, what was interesting, what was surprising, very briefly reference to the Keirsey book that was used, and then I will close it out. So we definitely need to start off with giving credit to the individuals who contributed to this temperament survey that we took here, starting off back to the 1920s with Carl Jung in his psychological type book, where he kind of started off with this classification of different types of temperaments. And then Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers, a mother and a daughter, took his work and years or decades later were able to develop their Myers-Briggs personality test, which gained a lot of traction in the 1990s. And so what Keirsey did was developed his own 70 question survey, brought it down from about, I think, 90 questions from the Myers-Briggs, and provided us with a very similar framework in terms of the different temperament types. And so that's what we'll be going over today. So out of the 16 possible combination types, as you see here, I ended up as an ESTJ, also grouped or known as a supervisor or as a guardian as classified by Keirsey. Not too surprising to me, and I will tell you why. So as an ESTJ, I was not too surprised at my result. The only one I was a little unsure of was the extroverted trait. I would say I'm a little bit of both, but I'm more so extroverted when it comes to an environment that I'm very familiar with. For example, family gatherings. I'm usually the one that coordinates those types of gatherings, even with friends as well. My work environment, I will say I'm pretty expressive in terms of my thoughts. I don't like to hold things in. More so with people, again, that I'm familiar with, my husband, family members. And so I would say I'm more introverted when it comes to an environment that I'm not familiar with. So I would say a little bit of both, but more so extroverted in an environment that I'm familiar with. On that same note, I will say the S for sensory in terms of being observant of my surroundings is all the time. It contributes to my detail orientation. When I'm in an environment that I'm not familiar with, I do like to observe people, get a sense of the energy and what's going on. Not so much extroverted, again, in that type of environment, but I will say I'm pretty observant in that sense when it comes to being an S for sensory. T for thinker, tough-minded, also described as being impersonal, which can have a negative connotation, but I actually think it's a good thing, especially in the line of work that I do. Naturally, as a middle child, I have always been the type to kind of mediate situations, and as a human resources professional dealing with very sensitive matters such as complaints of unlawful discrimination, um, complaints regarding sexual harassment, assault, I do have to remain as neutral as possible when we're conducting investigations. So really making sure we hear both sides of the stories before we develop any sort of conclusion or outcome. So I wasn't too surprised, again, that I fell into this thinker category. And then lastly, as a judger, it's described as being more of a scheduler or being very organized. And this again doesn't surprise me too much. My husband says that I'm OCD. I just really function better when things are organized. And this can at times be a flaw or be seen as being inflexible. And again, with the line of work that I do, we do need to be flexible as possible. Um, so especially when I try to plan out my day to go one way, we may have more urgent situations that come up throughout the day where we have to put out some fires. And so this can throw me off more so in my personal life, but I've learned to adjust accordingly. I'm still working on this. But in general, this personality type does not surprise me as it's described. And so it was really nice to see and to just reaffirm who I am in both my personal and my professional life. I hope you learned a little bit about me. Thanks for taking the time to review my presentation, and I hope you have a blessed day.